Greetings, fellow cultivators. Welcome to Autonova. Remember to like and subscribe to support the journey. Now, let's dive into the next chapter of A Will Eternal. In the profound Stream Mountains, the spell formation protecting the city was gradually being worn down. Every time it was damaged, it would repair itself, but was clearly teetering on the verge of complete destruction. The newly returned Profound Stream Sect cultivators, as well as the Pill Stream Sect cultivators who had surrendered and were now bound by restrictive spells, were constantly feeding spiritual power into the formation to keep it operational. Despite that, most of the Profound Stream Sect cultivators had sunk into reticent silence, wrapped up in numerous thoughts. Although they were still capable of fighting, and were confident in being able to drag the war out a bit longer, they were all wrapped up in uncertainty regarding the future. If they did drag things out, what good would it do? In the front, they faced the combined forces of the Spirit and Bloodstream sects, and from the rear, they were being attacked by the remnants of the Pill Stream sect. The Profound Stream sect cultivators knew that, in truth, there was no hope for them. The only thing that kept them going now was either loyalty to their sect, or fear of what would happen if they were defeated. The patriarchs of the Profound Stream sect were all seriously injured. It was with great bitterness that they realized that their opponents would never give up in the fight. Even if we made a huge sacrifice to somehow kill Bai Xiaochun, we still wouldn't be able to recover. They can't wipe us out like this. The Spirit and Bloodstream sects might be working together for now, but that won't last forever. We just need to hold out for a little bit longer. Either their alliance will fall apart, or the Starry Sky Dao Polarity sect will lose patience, and forbid them from trying to take on the Sky River Court. The hope for all of that rests in killing Bai Xiaochun. The patriarchs of the Profound Stream sect were not all in unison. Because of how the war had played out, they had different ideas about what exactly should be done. One of the patriarchs was an old man with a ruddy face and flowing red hair. Suddenly, he gave a cold harumph and said, "What's the point of arguing about things now? Even if we surrender in the end, we can hurt the Spirit and Bloodstream sects in the process, and even break their alliance. The vital intelligence that Thousand Faces sent to us before he died is something we can't let go to waste." No one dared to speak up in opposition to him. This old man was the most powerful patriarch in the current generation of the Profound Stream sect, Patriarch Crimson Soul. Cold light flickered in Patriarch Crimson Soul's eyes, and before anyone could say anything else, he pointed outside of the city and said, "Release the precious treasure. Prepare the heaven bow." In response, the lands outside the city began to quake, and crevices opened up. Wider and wider they grew, until they were fully 300 meters wide. The land almost looked like ocean water, undulated wildly, much to the shock of the countless cultivators of the Spirit and Bloodstream sects, who scrambled to get to safety. Then, a shocking roar issued forth from beneath the ground. The roar was so astonishing that everyone who heard it couldn't prevent shock from filling their faces, and they even staggered backward. Some began to bleed out of their eyes, ears, noses, and mouths. A few people who were closest to the origin of the roar simply couldn't withstand the sound, and their heads exploded. Because of that roar, brightly colored light flashed in heaven and earth. Even the gold core cultivators and the patriarchs were astonished, and looked over in the direction of what sounded like explosive thunder from the heavens. The lands collapsed, sending dirt and rocks exploding up into the air. An area of land hundreds of meters wide completely caved in, and everyone nearby staggered in place as another roar echoed out. Roar. Then, something burst out from under the surface. It was an enormous black star beetle, with a carapace that resembled powerful armor, and long antennae with sharp pincers at the ends. It also emanated a shocking black glow. 1. In Chinese, this bug is literally a heavenly ox. It's also known as a long-horned beetle. As soon as it appeared, the black-armored star beetle charged into the battle lines, causing numerous Spirit and Bloodstream sect cultivators to scream as they were crushed. Shockingly, this bug had battle prowess equivalent to a nascent soul patriarch. In fact, in some ways, it was even more powerful than that. Furthermore, black mist roiled off of its body that dissolved everything it touched. Bai Xiaochun was shocked by the sight of the enormous black beetle. He had seen all sorts of gigantic wild beasts, but this was his first time seeing a bug this large. Cries of shock rang out from the gold core cultivators among the Spirit and Bloodstream sects as they recognized what it was. A black-armored star beetle, one of the Profound Stream sect's two precious treasures. They've finally unleashed their black-armored star beetle. The Spirit Stream sect's founding patriarch snorted coldly and performed an incantation gesture with his right hand. Waving his finger toward the sky, he said, "I summon the Spirit Stream sects. Heavenhorn sword. Suddenly, the sky began to tremble, and a screaming sound echoed out. It sounded, not like the screaming of a person, but rather, the screaming caused by something ripping through the air at incredible speed. In the blink of an eye, dazzling silver light shone out from above as a black sword appeared. It looked like an ordinary sword, except that it was slightly curved. It had been forged from the shed horn of an ink dragon, and despite its relatively humble appearance, it was anything but ordinary. Visible on its surface were 10 shocking silver designs. That indicated that this sword had benefited from a tenfold spirit enhancement. Even a piece of scrap iron that had received a tenfold spirit enhancement would be called a rare and powerful weapon. But the Heavenhorn sword was much more than that. With a spirit enhancement the likes of which it had received, it could be considered something above a precious treasure. It was halfway to being a spirit treasure. When it came to magical devices, they were usually referred to in terms of 3 levels: magical treasures, precious treasures, and spirit treasures. In terms of quality, each level was broken up using the descriptions of mortal, earth, and heaven. For example, only heaven-tier precious treasures would be the kind that could protect an entire sect. In terms of spirit treasures, even the most inferior type, the mortal tier, would still be enough to be used as a reserve power for an entire sect. Furthermore, they would never be unleashed lightly. Only if the sect faced imminent destruction would they be called upon. The Heavenhorn sword's arrival caused a great commotion among all of the Spirit Stream sect cultivators on the battlefield. They immediately began to cheer loudly. "That's our sect's Heavenhorn sword. Ha ha ha. When the Heavenhorn sword appears, it can slash forests and destroy moons. The Heavenhorn sword is so powerful it can shake mountains and dry up rivers. It has a tenfold spirit enhancement. Nothing can compare to that." As their cries rolled out, it wasn't just the profound Stream sect cultivators whose faces darkened. Even the Bloodstream sect disciples had unsightly expressions on their faces. They weren't exactly happy to see the Spirit Stream sect stealing the spotlight. Among the patriarchs of the Bloodstream sect, only light snorts could be heard. Even they were shocked by the sight of the Heavenhorn sword and its 10 shocking silver designs. They had done much research into the precious treasures of the Spirit Stream sect, but had never been able to uncover what incredible luck the sect had encountered to be able to perform a tenfold spirit enhancement without destroying the sword in the process. The Archpatriarch sighed. "That's probably the only item in all of the eastern lower reaches that has a tenfold spirit enhancement." Bai Xiaochun looked up excitedly at the Heavenhorn sword, and especially at the 10 silver designs on it. Those designs instantly reminded him of his turtle walk. Although he didn't use the walk all the time, he knew that it was his most important secret. To this day, he still dreamed about using it to produce a magical item with a 100-fold spirit enhancement. He couldn't help but get excited about how shocked everyone would be if he succeeded at that. "I'm definitely going to do that one day." Even as Bai Xiaochun's heart stirred with excitement, Bruiser was on another part of the battlefield. He had just been prepared to make another offensive charge when a tremor ran through him, and he looked up, not at the Heavenhorn sword, but at the black beetle. Within his eyes gleamed a flicker of desire, and he had to suppress the urge to try to eat the beetle immediately. After all, he was aware of the vast difference in power between the two of them. After looking up in thought for a moment, he began to creep across the battlefield toward the black beetle. Meanwhile, the Heavenhorn sword descended in flickering light, like a black lightning bolt filled with silver. It sliced through the power of beetle's roar like a hot knife through butter, a dazzling arc of light, a waterfall hundreds of meters tall, a silver rainbow. Trembling, the black armored star beetle looked up, and then roared as though it knew it was facing a powerful opponent. Black mist erupted from its body, forming into an even larger figure. It was fully 3,000 meters tall, and although it wasn't fully solid, it was rapidly taking shape. The energy that erupted off of it left everyone gasping. Roaring, the black armored star beetle shot directly toward the Heavenhorn sword. Rumbling sounds shook the whole world. The blinding light shining off of the Heavenhorn sword became the most dazzling thing on the battlefield. However, the Heavenhorn sword simply tapped the beetle. When it did, the silver lines on its surface pulsed, and the black armored star beetle let out a blood-curdling scream. The outer layer of its body collapsed, and its true form was revealed. The expression on its face was one of terror, and it was about to flee, but to the utter shock of everyone observing, it was sliced into 2 pieces. Blood exploded out from the 2 pieces of the corpse, revealing that the beetle itself was something like a puppet, within the middle of which was a bizarre, black crystal. What delivered the killing blow wasn't the sword itself, it was the power of the tenfold spirit enhancement designs. So, this is the terrifying level of a tenfold spirit enhancement. The patriarchs of the profound stream sect almost couldn't believe their eyes and were completely shaken. If people like them had such a reaction, then there was no need to even mention the profound stream sect's gold core cultivators, whose scalps were tingling in astonishment. Even the bloodstream sect cultivators felt their minds reeling. As for the patriarchs, they had known in the past that the Heavenhorn sword was something to take very seriously, but to see with their own eyes how domineering it was forced them to admit that they had underestimated the signature sword of the spirit stream sect. It seems the legends of the tenfold spirit enhancement were true, the bloodstream sect archpatriarch said. A tenfold spirit enhancement will produce shocking transformations. In fact, it's just short of being a true spirit treasure. After joining forces with the spirit stream sect, it was becoming increasingly clear to the bloodstream sect that they were adept at concealing their true strength. Although they still didn't quite match up to the bloodstream sect, if war had truly broken out, even if the bloodstream sect won in the end, they would have been forced to pay a severe price. In fact, they would most likely have lost any qualification to enter the middle reaches. Furthermore, before they would even have had a chance to do that, the profound stream sect would have come for them, and the current situation would likely have been reversed. Everyone had been watching the clash between the Heavenhorn sword and the black-armored star beetle. That was especially true of the people on the city walls. Actually, there was a stirring of spiritual energy originating from those walls that was locked down on the area around the black-armored star beetle. As the Heavenhorn sword rose back up into the air, the two halves of the black-armored star beetle toppled down to either side, and the battlefield went completely silent. But then, all of the spirit stream sect cultivators broke out into thunderous cheering. In sharp contrast, the profound stream sect cultivators were forced to watch their sect's precious treasure, the black-armored star beetle, be cut in half. As its black blood oozed out in all directions, the shaken profound stream sect cultivators slowly bowed their heads. Many of them looked more thoughtful than ever. It was then that people started to realize that within the corpse of the black-armored star beetle, there was a very strange-looking crystal. Soon, more and more people were staring at it. However, even more attracted to the crystal were the numerous battle beasts, who were staring at it wide-eyed. A beast king crystal, the bloodstream sect's archpatriarch said. But then his eyes flickered, and his face fell. Wait, no, it's a fake. However, even as the words left his mouth, a tiny figure leapt out in front of everyone. It was Bruiser, who had shrunk down to the size of a hand, and was flying toward the corpse of the black-armored star beetle with shocking speed. His eyes shone with longing, almost madness, and he was moving so quickly that he was nothing more than a colorful blur. Bai Xiaochun's jaw dropped, and suddenly, he was stricken with the realization that something about the situation seemed off. Before he could react though, a droning sound filled the air, and it was coming from the city walls of the profound stream sect. The sound instantly grew in volume until it was ear-splitting, and caused all hearts to tremble. Next, a black arrow became visible. In the blink of an eye, it shot forth from the city, flying at unbelievable speed toward the direction of the black-armored star beetle. Its target was none other than Bruiser. A tremor ran through Bruiser, a sudden, intense sensation of deadly crisis. He let out a howl as he tried to flee, or perhaps fight back. And yet all such efforts were useless. The arrow was only half a moment away from stabbing into his forehead. Bai Xiaochun instantly devolved into madness. Shouting out in a hoarse voice, he flew out into the air and opened his heaven-span Dharma eye. All the control power of his third eye erupted, almost like an invisible hand which wrapped around the arrow in an attempt to halt its momentum. Bai Xiaochun shot toward the beetle corpse with all the power he could muster, blood oozing out of his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. As a result of all of his efforts, the arrow suddenly lurched to a halt. In that moment, Bruiser shivered, and then leapt to the side. Just as Bai Xiaochun was breathing a sigh of relief, the arrow swiveled in place. Instead of aiming at Bruiser, or even at Bai Xiaochun, it was now pointing directly toward the black crystal. It moved with speed just as incredible as before, and the sudden acceleration instantly shattered Bai Xiaochun's control power. All of this takes quite some time to describe, but happened with exceeding quickness. Few people on the battlefield were capable of even reacting. However, one of them was the bloodstream sect's archpatriarch, whose scalp was tingling so hard it felt like it might explode. "Night Crypt, get back," he shouted. "The target is you." The other patriarchs' faces fell as they realized what was happening, and although they wanted to do something to save Bai Xiaochun, there was no time. Although the previous situations he had encountered on the battlefield seemed dangerous, the truth was that the patriarchs had always been close by, and could have intervened if the situation got out of hand. But now, things were developing too quickly, and the Profound Stream Sect had seized an opportunity with vicious determination. Bai Xiaochun had flown out of his own accord because of the danger Bruiser had been in. Because of that, the ability of the patriarchs of the Spirit and Blood Stream sects to protect him had suddenly faltered. Although few other people might have noticed the opportunity which had developed, how could Patriarch Crimson Soul of the Profound Stream Sect not notice? This was a situation that he had personally manipulated. Bai Xiaochun's pupils constricted, but he didn't have any time to ponder his next action. A sensation of mortal crisis filled him, and he was left with few ways to defend himself. Shouting, he grabbed Bruiser, and then a black light shone out as the turtle walk appeared. Simultaneously, Bai Xiaochun curled up into the smallest ball possible inside of the walk. Just as he did that, the arrow struck the black crystal that was inside the corpse of the beetle. Instantly, a huge boom shook the area, and a black shockwave spread out for 90 meters in every direction. Everywhere the shockwave passed, it obliterated any living thing it touched, even the grass. Everything was wiped away. The cultivators it hit didn't even have a chance to scream. The corpse of the black armored star beetle was completely eradicated, and a huge crater was hewn out of the ground. Soon the boundless black light faded away, revealing the only thing to have been left behind. A black walk on the edge of the crater, sitting there motionless. As everyone peered over to look, the walk trembled, and then slowly lifted up to reveal Bai Xiaochun's face. He appeared to be so terrified that he was shaking. The sensation of having just escaped with his life left tears running down his cheeks. Profound Stream Sect, he shrieked, things aren't finished between us. Why you people actually tried to ambush me again. Fear still throbbed in his heart. Despite having been saved by the turtle walk, he was still convinced that he was about to die. However, when used by Bai Xiaochun, the spirit enhancement walk was extremely powerful. Without it, his poor little life would have been lost. His heart was pounding, and the residual fear that flowed through him caused his knees to wobble. Crawling out from underneath the walk, and cradling Bruiser in his arms, he said, "Bruiser, you almost got your dad killed, did you know that?" Bruiser looked like he was about to cry. He knew that he had slipped up. Seeing Bruiser's reaction, Bai Xiaochun couldn't bear to criticize him any further. Then, flames of rage began to rise up in his eyes as he looked over at the city walls, and the old man standing atop them with a huge bow in his hands. "You just wait for Lord Bai, you old fart," he shouted at the top of his lungs. I want that bow of yours. I can't believe he's not dead," Patriarch Crimson Soul said, lowering the enormous green bow. The bow itself emanated a profoundly ancient Heaven Dao aura. It was none other than the Profound Stream Sect's second precious treasure, the Heaven Bow. The arrow from moments ago had been loosed by that very bow. The Profound Stream Sect had long since come to realize that it would be impossible for any of them to directly kill Bai Xiaochun, not even the Gold Core cultivators. One of the enemy patriarchs would definitely step in to save him. The Spirit and Blood Stream sects were simply too protective of Bai Xiaochun. The entire time, Patriarch Crimson Soul had never been able to find a chance to kill Bai Xiaochun, and had eventually come up with the plan from moments ago, to sacrifice the black armored star beetle, and then use a crystal infused with the aura of a beast king to attract Bruiser. If Bai Xiaochun didn't make a move to save Bruiser, then the plan would have been for naught. However, as long as Bai Xiaochun appeared, then he could detonate the black crystal and destroy everything in the area, including Bai Xiaochun. If Bai Xiaochun died, it would be a fatal blow to the Spirit and Bloodstream sects, and would have made a split between the two even more likely. Even if the Profound Stream sect eventually surrendered, they would have a chance to rise up again in the future. However, after everything was said and done, Bai Xiaochun didn't end up dead. A very unsightly expression could be seen on Patriarch Crimson Soul's face, and his heart was filled with bitter sullenness. When the Spirit and Bloodstream sect patriarchs realized that Bai Xiaochun had survived, they breathed sighs of relief. Li Qinghao was shaking. Moments ago, he had been struck mute with fear. It was the same with all of Bai Xiaochun's other friends on the battlefield. As the fury of the two sects burned hotter than ever, they attacked. The Heavenhorn sword slashed into the spell formation, and the other precious treasures of the Spirit and Bloodstream sects were unleashed. A huge blood-colored tree appeared, as well as a blood mirror. Numerous powerful objects sent heaven-rending, earth-crushing power toward the Profound Stream sect. Powerful tremors ran across the surface of the spell formation shield. When the Heavenhorn sword struck it, dazzling silver light shot out, and the shield distorted visibly. The entire spell formation teetered, and although it didn't collapse, it clearly experienced a significant drainage of spiritual power. At the same time, the patriarchs of the spirit and bloodstream sects, as well as the gold core cultivators, were joined by large numbers of Foundation establishment experts to unleash powerful attacks. The enraged Bai Xiaochun also charged forth, continuously unleashing his blood chi to keep the bloodstream sect cultivators at their peak. Bruiser was at his side, equally furious. Howling, he released his Beast King aura, causing countless battle beasts to go mad as they attacked the spell formation. Gargoyles, refined corpses, blood swords and violet cauldrons could be seen everywhere. Then the Spirit Stream Sect's 9th mountain peak appeared, causing everything to shake violently. The mountains themselves began to crack and crumble. Blood clouds spread out, instantly staining the mountains and the city red. On the other side of the mountain range, the remnants of the Pillstream sect were attacking with full force, battering the rear portion of the spell formation to the point of destruction. From the look of it, the spell formation couldn't hold on for much longer, and in fact, the only way to prevent it from collapsing was to reduce its range. The Bloodstream sect's arch-patriarch had a very grim look on his face. The deadly crisis that had just befallen Bai Xiaochun left him feeling both anxious and furious. Profound Stream Sect, I'm not interested in waiting around for you to unleash your true reserve powers. Let's see if you still dare to hold back under the force of the Bloodstream sect's reserve powers. The Arch-Patriarch was the Bloodstream sect's only cultivator in the great circle of the nascent soul. His fury was something that could only be stood up to by the Spirit Stream sect's founding Patriarch and Patriarch Crimson Soul of the Profound Stream sect. Those three were all in the great circle, and thus, vastly more powerful than any of the other nascent soul cultivators. The Arch-Patriarch performed an incantation gesture with his right hand and then pointed his finger up into the sky. Voice resounding like heavenly thunder, he shouted, "Bloodstream Night Effigy." As the words left his mouth, the sky began to vibrate, and a red bolt of lightning suddenly appeared. As it streaked through the sky, it slashed open a huge rift, within which appeared a bizarre scarecrow with glowing red eyes. Cruel cackling echoed out from the mouth of the wicked-looking scarecrow. In one hand it held a patch of human skin, and in the other, a steelyard balance. As soon as it appeared, intense and shocking pressure roiled out to fill heaven and earth. That pressure alone caused the spell formation to begin to tremble on the verge of collapse. The Bloodstream sect cultivators gasped, and then their eyes shone with strange light. This was none other than the true reserve power of the Bloodstream sect. The reserve powers were the foundation of any sect. Countless red lightning bolts crashed in the sky above as the scarecrow suddenly vanished. When it reappeared, it was right outside of the spell formation shield, where it lifted its right hand up. As it did, the steelyard balance grew immeasurably large, and then, within the weighing tray, an image appeared. Upon closer examination, that image proved to be the entire mountain range that the Profound Stream sect's city was built into. Then, the steelyard balance began to move, as though it were weighing the importance of the mountain range and the city. The ground quaked and the mountains trembled. The city began to sway back and forth. Cracks appeared in the spell formation shield, almost as though heaven and earth were weighing the city. Once the weighing process was over, the mountain range and the city would be reduced to ashes. Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath. To see the bizarre image of the scarecrow and the quaking mountains and city made him realize that reserve powers of this level were something that not even patriarchs could deal with. I wonder what the true reserve power of the Spirit Stream sect is like, he thought, his mind reeling. The patriarchs of the Profound Stream sect had very serious expressions on their faces. Patriarch Crimson Soul's eyes flickered, and then he suddenly extended his right hand and slammed it down onto the ground. The resulting boom caused everything to tremble. Countless rocks and rubble suddenly leapt up into the air as an altar rose up from a square in the middle of the city. Exalted celestial incense. Patriarch Crimson Soul roared. At the same time, a thumb-sized chunk of black incense appeared on the surface of the altar. It radiated an incredibly ancient air, as though it had existed for countless years. Furthermore, it had obviously been lit on many occasions in the past. Now, only a small bit remained. As soon as it appeared, it began to burn, sending delicate streams of green smoke out through the spell formation, where they began to form into an image. Instantly, the scarecrow's red eyes began to glow even more brightly than before. It only took a brief moment for the image of green smoke to coalesce into the form of a cultivator. He appeared to be a middle-aged man wearing a Taoist robe and Taoist headgear. He bore the demeanor of a transcendent being, and seemed graceful in a way that surpassed the mortal world. From the aura and energy that exploded out from him, he almost seemed to be fused with heaven and earth. Instantly, the blood clouds in the sky began to churn, and the 9th mountain peak began to tremble. Then the middle-aged cultivator waved his finger, and everything began to distort. The steelyard balance in the hand of the scarecrow exploded violently, making it impossible to continue the weighing process. Everyone was completely and utterly astounded. The eyes of the Spirit Stream Sect's founding patriarch gleamed with bright light. He knew that the profound Stream Sect's reserve power was extraordinary, and now that he was able to witness it with his own eyes, he thought back to some of the stories he'd heard, and instantly realized the truth. The power of the Diva realm. Bai Xiaochun's heart was shaken. He looked at the man made from smoke, and could feel the terrifying pressure radiating off of him. A moment later, he realized that just looking at him filled his eyes with pain, and caused his mind to reel. To him, it seemed as this man had replaced the heavens, and was he himself heavenly might. The scarecrow's eyes began to glow with increasingly intense redness. Letting loose a powerful shriek, it took the patch of human skin it held in its left hand and then swung it around to cover its own body. In the blink of an eye, the scarecrow transformed into a child, which opened its mouth in terrifying fashion as it lunged at the middle-aged man. The conflict between these two ultimate reserve powers was causing everything under the sky to shake violently. Lights flashed in the sky, and a huge wind kicked up, accompanied by thunderous booms. The founding patriarch of the Spirit Stream Sect didn't hesitate at all to also perform an incantation gesture, then wave his hand upward. Spirit Stream Young Raven. The founding patriarch's words were accompanied by cacophonous rumbling sounds. It was as if two hands were ripping open the heavens to reveal a bright, clear sky beyond. There, the shocking image of a white sun could be seen. Within the white sun was a black raven. The raven's eyes opened, and they emitted blinding light. Then it cawed in deafening fashion. Even as ripples flowed out from the raven, it took a deep breath, completely absorbing the white sun. Then it became a streak of light like a shooting star that headed in the direction of the spell formation shield. Pill Stream Sect, produce your reserve power, shouted Patriarch Crimson Soul, his expression vicious. Instantly, one of the sealed Pill Stream Sect cultivators in the city, a former patriarch of the Pill Stream Sect, gritted his teeth and then waved his hand. Rumbling filled all creation as the sky once again opened up in the exact same position where the white sun had appeared. However, this time, what appeared was something completely different, a black sun. The instant the black sun appeared, it cast darkness everywhere below. Most strangely of all, within the black sun was a bird that looked almost exactly the same as the Spirit Stream Sect's raven. However, this raven was actually white. All cultivators who could see what was happening were gasping in shock. Many of them had eyes as wide as saucers. The fact that the reserve powers of the Spirit Stream Sect and the Pill Stream Sect were so similar made it obvious that the two sects were connected somehow. Bai Xiaochun's eyes went wide as he watched the white raven open its mouth and suck in the black sun. Then, eyes gleaming as if with hatred for an archenemy, it shot toward the Spirit Stream Sect's black raven. When the two collided, a massive boom shook everything in the area. The Bloodstream Sect's arch-patriarch suddenly thought back to a rumor he'd heard. Yin-Yang ravens. Supposedly, when the Spirit Stream Sect made its foray into the lower reaches 10,000 years ago, they had possessed no reserve power. Later, they had joined forces with the Pill Stream Sect, which was when they suddenly came to have a spirit treasure. Either way, this battle is almost over, thought the arch-patriarch. There's no way the Profound Stream Sect has a third reserve treasure. The Bloodstream Sect's arch-patriarch exchanged a glance with the Spirit Stream Sect's founding patriarch, and they nodded to each other. The truth was that they could have made a massive attack like this earlier on. However, they had drawn things out to give the Spirit and Bloodstream Sects a chance to fight together. At the same time, they were able to chip away at the morale of the Profound Stream Sect. After all, their goal was not to wipe out the Profound Stream Sect, but rather, to absorb it. Now that the Profound Stream Sect had revealed their reserve power, there was no suspense at all left in the war. The Spirit Stream Sect's founding patriarch waved his sleeve, and then spoke in a voice as cold as ice. Profound Stream Sect, do you surrender? Profound Stream Sect, do you surrender? The words of the Bloodstream Sect's arch-patriarch echoed out in all directions. Simultaneously, orders were passed down to the disciples. The giants powered by the outer sect disciples of the Spirit Stream Sect roared as they battered the spell formation, joined by the enormous blood spheres composed of outer sect disciples from the Bloodstream Sect. A huge boom rippled out from this first major attack. The cultivators inside the Profound Stream Sect city were having a difficult time continuing to power the spell formation, and were left trembling. And that was only from an attack by the outer sect disciples. The sheer numbers involved left the Profound Stream Sect cultivators' cultivation bases in chaos. At the same time, the outer sect disciples shouted in unison, "Profound Stream Sect, do you surrender?" Their voices were like thunder that rattled the hearts and minds of the Profound Stream Sect cultivators. Before they could even begin to do some breathing exercises to recover, a wave of refined corpses, gargoyles, war chariots and battle beasts charged forth in a second major attack. That attack was even more intense than the previous attack, and released even greater pressure than the previous one. The Profound Stream Sect cultivators felt as if their cultivation bases were about to be torn to pieces. Even the patriarchs were included. Everyone was well aware that the attacks leveled by the two sects would only continue to get stronger. Before they even had time to react, and almost concurrent with the second attack, the inner sect disciples of the two sects launched a third attack. The spell formation incarnations of the Spirit Stream Sect and the locust-like magic of the Blood Stream Sect formed together into something like a sharp sword which slashed toward the spell formation. "Profound Stream Sect, do you surrender?" Their cry caused the entire city to shake. The spell formation shield distorted, and the Profound Stream Sect cultivators shook violently. Their cultivation bases couldn't take much more. This third attack was even more powerful than the others, and many of the pale-faced cultivators inside the formation were even beginning to wither up. There was no chance for any of them to rest or recuperate for even a moment. Things weren't over yet. Next came the chosen and peak lords from the 7 mountain peaks of the south and north banks of the Spirit Stream Sect, in the form of enormous spell formation giants. At their side were their contemporaries from the 4 mountain peaks of the Bloodstream Sect. A fourth powerful attack. This attack was completely different from the first 3. It was like stabbing a dagger into the heart of a dying person. The spell formation trembled, and the cultivators supporting it from within all began to cough up blood. Yet again, there was no other choice for them but to allow the spell formation to shrink. Next came the spell formation giants from Mount Deoseed, including Bai Xiaochuns. Joining them were the Blood Masters and Elders from the Bloodstream Sect. Terrifying roars echoed out as they unleashed the 5th major attack. That attack unleashed power even greater than all of the previous attacks put together. Bai Xiaochun joined in the thunderous battle cry as the spell formation distorted, and then shrank down again. Mountains in the area crumbled, and the city seemed in grave danger of simply collapsing. More blood spilled out of the mouths of the cultivators powering the spell formation, whose chi passageways were already significantly injured. Some of them were so withered that they had to be replaced. As that happened, the thunderous shout of the Spirit and Bloodstream Sects reached their ears. "Profound Stream Sect, do you surrender?" The Profound Stream Sect cultivators' hearts were pounding in their chests, but before they could pull themselves back together, a 6th major attack headed their way. That attack came from the well over 100 prime elders from both sects. They held nothing back as they unleashed the most powerful attack yet onto the spell formation. The spell formation rumbled as cracks spread out. It shrank down again, exposing the outer areas of the city. More cultivators inside coughed up blood, and many of them lapsed into unconsciousness. The main emotion in the minds of most cultivators in the city was despair. And yet, another attack was already incoming. The cultivation bases of the Blood Rippers and Legacy Echelon cultivators erupted. Trump cards were unleashed without hesitation. Visually, the 7th major attack looked like shooting stars slamming into the spell formation shield. Boom! The damage to the spell formation spread out even further. The walls of the city began to fall, revealing the exhausted, bitter Profound Stream Sect cultivators inside. Some of the cultivators who had been powering the spell formation were instantly destroyed in body and soul. The area covered by the spell formation shrank yet again, leaving many cultivators outside of its protection. Some of those cultivators had once been members of the Pillstream Sect. They could only sit there silently with gritted teeth. They had no desire to be considered part of the Profound Stream Sect anymore. Then, the 8th major attack closed in. 6 patriarchs of the Bloodstream Sect and 4 from the Spirit Stream Sect joined together for the 8th attack. They were like 10 gods, and the mere sound of them unleashing their battle prowess was like thunder from the heavens. "Profound Stream Sect, do you surrender?" The air shattered, and the ground quaked violently. As the attacks of 10 patriarchs slammed into the spell formation, the patriarchs of the Profound Stream Sect roared and held nothing back to resist. Booms rang out constantly. More than half of the city was destroyed now, and all of the patriarchs of the Profound Stream Sect were left coughing up blood. Their faces were ashen, and their bodies withered. They looked older than before, and even Patriarch Crimson Soul was staggering backward, blood spraying out of his mouth. It was in that moment that the remnants of the Pillstream Sect unleashed their own powerful attack. A huge pill furnace smashed into the spell formation shield, and the tens of thousands of cultivators behind it attacked with suicidal abandon. Another powerful shout filled the air. Profound Stream Sect, do you surrender? One of the cultivators within the Pill Stream Sect was a young woman with a gauzy white veil. Her facial features were obscured, but her eyes were visible, and they were spectacularly beautiful. Virtually all of the cultivators in the Pill Stream Sect were obsessed with her. Within that sea of people, she was like a pearl on a beach, resplendent and beautiful. Booms echoed out as the spell formation trembled. When the pill furnace slammed into it, a huge gap ripped open. Patriarch Crimson Soul spread his arms wide, and the power of a great circle nascent soul cultivation base exploded out as he joined the scattered remnants of the Profound Stream Sect cultivators who were powering the spell formation. However, that was when Bai Xiaochun noticed something up in the air above the spell formation. His eyes went wide when he realized that he was looking at a very familiar monkey. The old monkey was holding an enormous staff raised overhead. Eyes flickering with an archaic light, as well as a dignity that could shake heaven and earth, he smashed the staff downward. Profound Stream Sect, do you surrender? Roared an ancient-sounding voice. The spell formation shook violently, and finally, exploded. A shockwave blasted out in all directions. Patriarch Crimson Soul coughed up an enormous mouthful of blood. The other cultivators of the Profound Stream Sect were all soaked in blood from various wounds. At the same time, something shot into the city, something that moved so quickly it was impossible for anyone to see it clearly at first. Only when it landed on the altar in the middle of the city was it possible to tell that it was a rabbit. The rabbit's eyes glittered with a mysterious light as it snatched the incense off of the altar and extinguished it. When that happened, the middle-aged man fighting the scarecrow suddenly vanished. Then the scarecrow looked down, radiating the terrifying energy that only the deepest reserve powers of a sect could. That energy locked down onto the wounded patriarchs of the Profound Stream Sect, making it impossible for them to even move. Everything happened almost too quickly to process. The monkey appeared, broke open the spell formation, then the rabbit extinguished the incense, and finally the scarecrow sent energy crushing down. It all happened within the space of a few breaths of time. Bai Xiaochun's eyes were wide as he stared at the rabbit on the altar. Suddenly, he got a very bad feeling. That was when Bai Xiaochun suddenly realized that numerous cultivators from the two sects were all vying with each other to enter the city. That was even true of the scattered remnants of the Pill Stream Sect on the other side, led by the young woman in the white veil. Bai Xiaochun slapped his thigh. Battle merit. Whoever gets into the city first will get a big reward. Suddenly inspired, he roared and shot off at top speed. Bruiser seemed to understand exactly what he was thinking, and gave him a push off. Bai Xiaochun flew forward, wings flapping, blasting across the battlefield like a meteor. He immediately passed everyone else, and then quickly stepped onto the shattered city wall. Profound Stream Sect, are you going to surrender? The echo of his shout caused Patriarch Crimson Soul's heart to fill with bitterness. He looked around at the Profound Stream Sect cultivators, and then over at Bai Xiaochun. He knew that after surrendering, he would have to come up with a method of resolving the differences between the two of them. Even as his eyes flickered, the other patriarchs clasped hands and bowed to Bai Xiaochun. We surrender. Everything went quiet for a moment, and then cheering erupted from the spirit and bloodstream sects. The Profound Stream Sect cultivators sighed, and Bai Xiaochun's eyebrows shot up and down in excitement. Sticking his chin up, he waved his sleeve and proudly said, with the snap of a finger, Bai Xiaochun reduced the Profound Stream. Before he could finish speaking, a little turtle head popped out of his bag of holding and looked up at him. The turtle sighed. It's been a long time since I've heard someone blow their own horn so loudly. Bai Xiaochun's jaw dropped. For years now, his moments of sleeve-flicking monologue had always been one of great pride. Never before had anyone interrupted him. Eyes wide, he stared down at the green little turtle head sticking out of his bag of holding. Damn it, you're still in my bag of holding. Just as he reached his hand over to grab the turtle rolled its eyes, stuck its head back inside, and vanished. Bai Xiaochun was fuming with rage. The little turtle was really a disaster for him. Whenever he thought about how it had provoked that enormous golden crocodile, his head started to ache. However, despite his simmering rage, he couldn't find the turtle no matter how he looked. Gritting his teeth, he decided to start using a new bag of holding. After switching the contents, he hurled the old one outside of the city. If you're so awesome, he said angrily, let's see you pop your head out of this one. As soon as the words left his mouth, the little turtle's head popped out of the new bag of holding and looked contemptuously at Bai Xiaochun. Considering you just gave Lord Turtle a new house, I'll play along. Go ahead and bow down and worship. Bai Xiaochun felt like he was about to start crying. After a long moment, he sighed and resigned himself to the fact that he couldn't do anything about the little turtle. With that, he looked around dejectedly at the other cultivators of the spirit and bloodstream sects as they poured into the city and started taking the profound stream sect cultivators into custody. As for the monkey and the rabbit, Bai Xiaochun looked around for quite a while, but couldn't find any clues as to where they'd gone off to. Even Bruiser had disappeared now that the city had fallen. I was the one who made that monkey and that rabbit, he thought sadly. It was really a strange situation, and suddenly he couldn't help but think back to all of the other little animals from back in the Spirit Stream sect. Soon, the remnants of the Pill Stream sect were pouring in from the other side. Mixed emotions could be seen as they looked at their compatriots who had given into the profound Stream sect. At the same time, they complied with the instructions of the Spirit and Bloodstream sects as their own sect was absorbed into the alliance. The patriarchs of the profound stream sect, especially Patriarch Crimson Soul, were not magically sealed. Instead, the Archpatriarch and the founding patriarch calmly accepted their surrender. When it came to the lower-ranking cultivators, the spirit and bloodstream sects had their ways of ensuring that they were taken in by the alliance. Bai Xiaochun didn't need to help with anything. He simply watched as the excited and enthusiastic cultivators of the spirit and bloodstream sects cheered and went about their work. Now that the war was over, it was possible to say that the eastern lower reaches of the cultivation world had truly been united. All that was needed now was a bit of time for the lower reaches to build up strength, and then they could march to challenge the Sky River Court. Bai Xiaochun had been the center of all attention during the fighting, and now, he was like a sun shining down on the spirit and bloodstream sects. Everyone looked at him with passion and respect. As for the female disciples, strange gleams could be seen in their eyes, which made Bai Xiaochun feel wonderful. He quickly set aside the matter of the little turtle, and simply savored the moment. Assuming the pose of an important person from the senior generation, he began to stroll through the city. Whenever he encountered cultivators he knew, he would smile and nod. As he passed, an endless stream of "Greetings, Junior Patriarch" could be heard. Eventually, Bai Xiaochun was displeased to discover that he actually wasn't the only person to have become extremely famous during the war. There was another person from the Pill Stream sect who everyone was talking about. She was none other than the beautiful chosen Chen Manyao. Although she had a powerful cultivation base, and was skilled in both strategy and tactics, what most people noticed was her spectacular beauty. Because of the semi-transparent veil she wore, it was impossible to tell the true extent of her good looks, but even still, countless people would stare at her with beating hearts. At one point, Bai Xiaochun looked over, annoyed, to see a whole group of disciples clustered around her. Suddenly, she looked up at him, her eyes cold and icy. The look she was giving him left him feeling even more annoyed than before. Her cultivation base isn't as profound as mine, and her position isn't as high as mine either. Her techniques don't measure up, and her background can't compare. What's so amazing about her? After some thought, he was also convinced that she wasn't as good-looking as he was either. He widened his eyes into a glare, and she looked away. Laughing and chatting, she led the group of cultivators away. Bai Xiaochun snorted coldly. By this time, evening was falling, and he began to ask around about his friends, such as Xu Baosai, Big Fatty Zhang, Hu Yunfei, and Third Fatty He. He learned that some had been injured, or even collapsed from exhaustion, but none had perished. Breathing a sigh of relief, he offered sincere thanks to all of the other disciples who had been with his friends in the various spell formations. Bai Xiaochun could be a diplomatic person when necessary, and was well aware that the likely reason why all of his best friends had survived the war was because people had been watching out for them for his sake. The other disciples from the various spell formations were very moved by his expression of thanks, and their respect for him grew. Eventually he found some prime elders of the two sects who were sighing over how brutal the fighting had been. When Bai Xiaochun appeared, they smiled and began to chat. After some pleasantries, he asked about where Shui Mei had been taken. One of the Bloodstream sect's prime elders winked knowingly and said, Shui Mei was seriously injured during the fighting. Although she'll recover, she needs to spend some time in secluded meditation. Since she's an important disciple of the Bloodstream sect, she'll definitely be in the eastern section of the city, where the least damage was sustained. Head over there, you should be able to find her. Having determined Shui Mei's location, Bai Xiaochun cleared his throat and continued to engage in some idle chatter before taking his leave and heading toward the eastern section of the city. Along the way, he looked around at the spirit and bloodstream sects taking control of the remnants of the city, and felt very pleased. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that his decision back in the Luokan Mountains had been the correct one. It was already possible to see that the disciples of the spirit and bloodstream sects were starting to get comfortable with each other. Bai Xiaochun was very pleased. Eventually, he passed through the center of the city, where the Profound Stream sect's treasure store was located. Although the sky was dark, there were still quite a number of cultivators there, busily clearing out the treasures. Suddenly, Bai Xiaochun's expression flickered. I remember hearing that the holy pill wall fragment back in the bloodstream sect had been robbed from the pillstream sect. Presumably, the other half remained with the pillstream sect. Since the pillstream sect was conquered by the Profound Stream sect, I wonder if that wall fragment is in the Profound Stream sect's treasure storehouse. Having reached this point in his train of thought, Bai Xiaochun hurried over to find the disciple in charge of clearing out the treasure storehouse. If any other person had asked about the matter, they would have been rebuffed immediately. But Bai Xiaochun was different. The disciple in charge only hesitated for a moment before nodding and helping Bai Xiaochun search for the wall fragment. He even escorted him into the storehouse itself and handed over the wall fragment personally. The only stipulation was that records had to be kept that Bai Xiaochun had taken the wall fragment. Bai Xiaochun didn't mind that at all. Excitedly accepting the wall fragment, he began to study it. Of course, he didn't enter into a trance, but only made a cursory examination. Almost immediately, he could tell that this wall fragment would help him to advance by leaps and bounds with his skill in the Tao of medicine. I wonder if I could eventually try to concoct the river-defying pill? Shaking his head, he put the wall fragment away, bowed deeply to the disciple in charge, and then continued on his way to the eastern section of the city. By the time he arrived, the moon was climbing high into the sky. This area of the city hadn't received nearly as much damage as the other parts, and was also much quieter. Only the occasional cultivator could be seen, most of them on guard duty. Any of them who spotted Bai Xiaochun would immediately clasp hands in greeting. After asking around, Bai Xiaochun determined where Shui Mei was staying. His heart had already begun beating a bit faster. Without any hesitation, he headed in that direction, and soon found himself in front of a type of residence referred to as a spirit abode. It wasn't very large, but was surrounded by flickering spell formations. Some of them were bloodstream sect formations that absorbed blood chi from the area, which would allow the cultivator inside the spirit abode to heal more quickly. Stopping in front of the door, Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath. There were many things he wanted to ask Du Lingfei, and yet suddenly, he felt himself hesitating. After a moment of thought, he chuckled calmly. Regardless of anything, he thought, she's my boo. Before, we were enemies, but now the two sects have become one. With those thoughts on his mind, he stepped forward and reached his hand in the direction of the door. Soft rumblings could be heard as he sent power toward the spirit abode. He was just about to say something when the door swung open. There appeared Shui Mei, her mask on as usual. After looking at him for a moment, she softly said, Du Shui Mei offers greetings, Blood Master. Thus, this episode comes to an end. Remember to like and comment so we can discuss the story together. Until we meet again in the next chapters.